Hello everyone, I think I'm going to start. My name is Kohts, and I'm going to tell you a story about the program which I developed when I worked in Yandex back several years ago. And I'd like to notice that I don't represent Yandex here, so it's just a personal story. I see that some of you are tired or sleepy. I hope I will cheer you up with the story a bit. First of all, for those who might not know, Yandex is the largest Russian internet company, and it's the largest Russian search engine. The company held its IPO 2 years ago, and it occupies 18th place in Alexa top 100 websites. From system administrator point of view, Yandex is a lot of servers, and I don't know how much exactly because I don't work for the company for a while, but I estimate the number of the servers to be around 100,000. Maybe I'm wrong. This program, SnakeD, was conceived not as a standalone program, but rather it was a crucial part of so-called scalability framework, which we tried to develop. And I was a part of so-called system group in Yandex Systems Administration Department, where the goal of the group was to develop tools needed for system administrators to handle the huge amount of servers they had in Yandex. Basically, we end up with a program which is very similar to cron, to standard system cron, but has several unique features which we think are very useful and allow to solve a much broader range of tasks with such tool. So the main goal of my talk today is actually to seek your advice. As Larry Wall noted it in his talk, the community decides. So my goal is to ask you whether you think that standard system cron needs these features in it. And at the end of the talk, I will give you a link to the poll where you can vote. Either you think some of the features which I will describe are worth doing into system cron, maybe all of them, and so on. And generally, I would like to get all the feedback available, so if anyone finds time to write email. But poll for lazy. The main problem which we faced while working in Yandex Systems Administration Department was that although there are a lot of open source programs which solve all kinds of systems administration tasks well, few of them can be used out of the box in the Yandex environment because of the amount of objects we had there. So basically, we've come up with an idea that we could implement some framework which would allow us to use the majority of open source programs in such environment. And the idea was quite simple. We decided to distribute all of the available all of the huge amount of servers across standalone installations of open source programs which do not know anything about one about another. Right. The program snaked. I'm sorry. It was developed in an evolutionary way, and first of all, it were a bunch of cron tasks on different servers, and then when we had the necessity to limit the execution time of these jobs, we've came up with a function run forked, which is currently distributed in Perl main modules in YAPC CMD. And I don't know if anyone knows this function. Yeah, so I saw that coming, but you should probably try it because it allows you to run run external commands from Perl very easy and to control time execution and to get all the standard output, etc. I will tell about this function in more detail in Lightning session, which is coming up. So then it was very natural to add job dependencies, and every system administrator knows that if you have two resource-intensive tasks, then you probably don't want to run them simultaneously. So it's very logical to postpone one task, and basically that's what we've implemented in snaked. And when we realized that we have created a new cron, then it was a small step to add cron schedule format support. So I will tell you a bit later about several features of snaked, which I think are worth adding to system cron. But before that, I would like to describe you briefly this scalability framework, which I've started to do. So the main idea was to distribute well, we chose one task, monitoring, and one open source program, Nagios. We've tried to develop a prototype of such system which will allow usage of Nagios unmodified in Yandex environment. And the idea was simple, to have a list, to have centralized configuration database which had all of the servers, the list of all of the servers in Yandex. And which is important, could be grouped, and these groups could include other groups. And a very important notion of application and application configuration option, which could be assigned both to individual server and to the group. And when this application option is assigned to the group, then it automatically it is inherited by all of the servers which are included into this group. And here comes the first role which snaked was useful for us. If we have a group and it has a lot of servers in it, then you can't. If you try to apply the change of the Nagios server for this group, the application option, for all of the servers at once, your user interface will stuck. So basically, we had that applied to only one record, to the record associated with the group. And in the background, we had snaked task, which did all the application of this option for all of the servers which were included into the group. On the client side, and I guess it's not a secret, Nagios doesn't have a fully featured client. So basically, before using snaked, we used cron task, which ran shell script, which consisted of all of the checks which were done for the server, free disk space, number of processes, free memory, and so on. With snaked, we've split every check into pairs of jobs. First one was doing the actual check, and another one, and saved the results into local file system, and another one read those checks from the local file system and sent them to Nagios server. Of course, there was another snaked task which periodically synchronized Nagios server name from the centralized configuration database. And of course, there was simple caching rule. So you try to query configuration database through REST API, and if that doesn't work, you just use the last value you have on the local file system. So on the Nagios server side, we also had the snaked job, which periodically synchronized the list of the servers assigned to this Nagios installation. And if the list changed, then Nagios configuration would be recreated, regenerated, so that Nagios server manages all of the servers assigned to it. So basically through one user interface, it was a graphical user interface, we could control which servers were reporting to what Nagios, to which Nagios installation, and that could be easily changed with a simple interface. So the important question is, could that be done with YAPC cron? And the simple answer is technically yes. But the problem is that it's not convenient. Because in YAPC cron we have the width of our screens are limited, and we have one line for the job. And it's quite a complex task to modify the cron format automatically in a programmatic way. And there is also no internal support for jobs concurrency and for timeouts, which on one hand, it's not a big problem. And I found several big threads on Slashdot where people discuss this, and they, there are always people who say, you don't know flog or something like that, but the thing is, that's not portable, because in Yandex, it was all kinds of different BSDs, all kinds of Linuxes. So to handle, we could, theoretically we could do that, but it was not, it was totally unportable. But with snaked, it's just Perl, and you do this in a standard way. So maybe I convinced some of you to try snaked. Maybe some of you would try, would like to try it before answering the poll, and that would be great, because that would be great if your opinion is justified. So you can easily install it from cpan. It is called snaked, and I've included a sample configuration which is discussed in the documentation on cpan, and there's also the link in the documentation to the voting. After installing, you can run sample config command, which will populate etc snaked with the sample configuration, and you can run it in daemon mode. But there is a... actually, while in documentation I discuss, I show you how it can be used from super user. It actually doesn't require super user privileges, and it could be used from any standard user. And it is the way it is currently used in Yandex. Aside of that, few words about the functionality and about configuration format. In snaked, every job is a directory, and the name of the directory is the identifier of the job. And every option of the job is a file inside of that directory. And actually there are only two mandatory options. First one is the CMD option. It's the actual command you you're executing, and it could be any executable shell script, binary file. And another mandatory option is either execution interval or execution schedule. First one defines frequency of the job, or you can use standard cron schedule specification. All other options have decent defaults, and as I told you, as snakedb could be run from any standard user, paths default to /tmp directory, so that any user could write there. There are several production useful features which we added to snakedb when we deployed snakedb in production environment on all of those different operating systems and differently configured servers. I would say that among those are log rotation. For example, you can specify the maximum size of the logs snakedb generates, and it does the rotation by itself. So you can control how it uses your disk space. Also, it has a watchdog process. It is very useful when there are some strange programs, strange systems administrators, or strange out-of-memory killers who come and kill your program. So for some servers, we had to specify the amount of watchdogs to be more than one, and there is also an option for that. So you can raise the chances of your snakedb installation not to be killed at all. There are also process manipulation commands with which you can restart your snakedb process, with which you can request reread of configuration. Actually, it does reread configuration by itself, but you can force that. Also, there is a job manipulation API, although it's a file system, and I mean, the configuration is stored on the file system, and you can easily, configure it by creating directories and writing to files. There is a separate job API, which allows you to, do it in a more consistent way. There is also an important option, notification interval, which specifies the frequency of emails you want to get from the job. Because when you have thousands or tens of thousands of servers and your cron job starts to write you email every, say, second, so you get a lot of emails and your email server may die. So with notification interval, you can solve this problem a bit. Yeah, okay. So basically, that's it. That's what I was going to tell you, and hopefully you'll find the time to try to read about the program, to try it maybe, and I guess everyone will have a chance to vote. And I would, in the end, I would like to say thank you, and there is a sad news from Yandex. Our former chief technical officer, Ilya Segalovic, passed away a few weeks ago. And although he was not involved into my work directly, I did participate in his charity work. And so I attribute part of my work to Ilya. Because of the company which he created, which allowed me, because of the atmosphere in the company which he created, which allowed me to do this work. So my deepest condolences to his family, to his friends, and to the whole Yandex team. Although this presentation was not very good, I guess I was preparing it for some time, and there are people who helped me to do this. This English-speaking club and the girls who run it Dasha and Sveta. So if you are ever in Moscow and you need English speaking, you know, English speaking friends, or just to hang out with someone, so you can visit them and they will really lead you through the city and will help you to practice. So thank you. I'm waiting for your feedback.